Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another installment in our new figure showcase series, where I take a quick look and review and pose up the latest figure I'm adding into my collection. And for today's installment, we're tackling a company that I haven't purchased from before, but I'm definitely excited to take a look at. And the figure we're going to be looking at is the 6-scale version of Marion Cobretti from the Sylvester Stallone action movie Cobra by the Stallone Shop. So, first things first, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the company that's helping to make these figures for the Stallone Shop is the same company that's doing the Braddock figure. So I think it's Infinite Studios or Infinite Statues. Let me know if I'm wrong on this one, but I do know that there's basically an established company behind these figures that's helping kind of guide them. So look, as far as this figure, I was really excited to get it in hand, and more than that, it's really about the character. I can't tell you how many times I've watched Cobra. It's a movie that in retrospect is way over the top and falls into that typical 80s action movie vibe, but it's a fun watch and probably has more humor in it than you would normally anticipate, especially coming from Stallone. So Stallone is playing Lieutenant Cobretti, member of the LAPD's zombie squad. Now, my understanding is there's no such thing, although in real life Stallone claims that he modeled this after a unit in I think it's a European police force. Who knows if that's true, but anyway, in the movie he essentially gets the job no one wants and tracks down psychos and killers and is just basically Judge Dredd. But that's really what he is. And in the movie he ends up having to protect a witness who can identify the leader of some kind of a serial killer cult that's calls themselves the New World. Honestly, even I'll admit it's a really basic setup just to have Cobretti face off against a bunch of nameless thugs and have us root for him, and it does deliver in that sense. I still go back and watch it, and because I love that movie so much, there was no way I was going to miss out on an actual Cobra figure, although I almost did. If you watch my channel, you know that I made a mistake of thinking I had him on order, and then the pre-order sold out and I realized that I hadn't done it. And I was kind of beside myself because this figure was going for so much money on the secondary market. So I figured that was it. I wasn't going to get a chance to get him. But Stallone Shop went ahead and reissued a second wave, so I managed to jump on that. Alright, so let's look at the package we're getting here, and it's a decent one. Although I do think there are some things missing that could have made it better, but we'll touch on those later. And actually, before getting into the overall package, I have to say the figure is really heavy in hand. Not sure what the body is they're using here. Might be a custom, but it's not your typical 6-scale body. It feels much more sturdier, and I will say the scale does seem a little bit larger than your standard 6-scale. Not quite sure what's going on there, but he does seem bulkier than he should be. As far as the accessories, you get a couple of extra hands, a necklace, his badge, his iconic weaponry, and the holster for the machine gun, and an interesting display base, and some matchsticks. Again, if you've watched the movie, all of these pieces are going to bring you back to the fun that you had watching this. So let's jump to look at the accessories in greater depth, and we're going to start with the hands. Figure comes with fists already on, but you do get a pair of relaxed hands and a pair of gripping hands for the weapons. Now they're all gloved, so there's not much to get wrong here. They're good overall, but nothing that required too much extra work, to be honest. But now we get into the highlight of the accessories, and the first one is easily his machine gun that he uses for the final battle with the villains in the movie. Now, I always thought that was a standout. It's not a weapon we saw in other films prominently, like, for example, everybody's seen the HK MP5, so it always stood out with the very unique design. So this is, and I'm apologizing ahead of time if I get it wrong, I think it's a Jatomatic SMG, which is a finished 9mm submachine gun that also includes a collapsible forward grip. Again, just very distinctive look with the elongated magazine, and it's also outfitted with a laser sight, which, given that this was 1986, takes up a lot of real estate here as an attachment. But I think they did an awesome job recreating the weapon, and given how integral that is to Cobra, the movie, I'm glad they did. So awesome piece. Now, you also get the corresponding holster, which I think might be actual leather, although I'm not sure. But it feels sturdy and looks great with the mag pouch on the side that actually has additional magazines for the SMG, as well as the holster portion for the gun that you can unhook if you want. Overall, just looks great and gives you a variety of options for display and posing. Next up, you get his other iconic weapon, which is his Colt pistol. And just like the SMG was iconic to the end of the film, this is just a standout throughout the entire movie, specifically with those grip plates that have a Cobra printed on them. It's another memorable aspect of Cobretti's arsenal, and I'm glad they were able to recreate those here. Just beautifully done with that Cobra image and the screws for the plate. The gun itself is nicely detailed with a functioning slide, and the trigger is actually pretty unique, kind of with the hollowed out area, and it also is a nice silver. So there's definitely a lot of attentiveness to detail here that went into this. And on the opposite side of the gun, it's pretty much identical, but you do get some imprinted text on the slide that always adds a bit more authenticity to it. But just again, awesome job recreating these. Wrapping up weapons, you do get 2 grenades that he wears on his belt, also from the end of the movie. Pretty basic, with a nice textured grip on the body and an actual metal pin on the spoon. Just looks good, and it's a nice extra to have. And I do like that these are matte black. Again, it sets them apart just a little bit from other versions that we've seen from other military companies. Next up on the accessory front, you get some items to place on the figure itself, starting with a very nice looking wristwatch, a pair of sunglasses, and a chain. All screen accurate, or at least as screen accurate as they were able to get them. Watch is a really nicely done piece, with the dial face showing a raised textured surface around the perimeter and a plastic cover on the dial itself that just gives it a good authentic feel, more than just slapping like a sticker would have. So I appreciate that detail work on those small pieces. The glasses are solid, although mine are a little warped, but they look like the ones from the movie, although I think they're a little more reflective in the movie, but they look awesome. And then the chain, which is literally something you'd find on a key ring or something that's just repurposed. I do feel like they could have done a better job with the chain, making it a little thinner. And before you tell me I'm asking for too much, Damn Toys does that all the time with their Gangster's Kingdom line with real small metal chains, so it definitely can be done. Now, the other piece that I was really impressed by, and I think is stunning, is his badge. So easy to get this wrong, right, for any company, or go cheap and just do a sticker. But this is actually fully molded with different colors, and you can see the writing on the surface identifying Cobra as a detective with the rank of lieutenant and his badge number. It's easily a highlight piece from the accessories, and it really impresses in terms of detailing and just the effort taken. Final accessory is just a base, and I'm showcasing it here because it's kind of unique. So first of all, it's kind of big, so not something I'm going to be using. And then instead of having a nameplate that says Cobra, they actually have just an actual Cobra molded, like it's wrapped around with the fully hooded head at the front. Look, I get that it's the character, literally, but I'm not crazy about the base at all. And fortunately, the figure doesn't need it to stand, so I won't be using it, but it's a decent stand, although again, just not for me. So now let's jump to the sculpt. And look, hopefully my take isn't too negative here. It's not meant to be, but I'm not crazy about it. I think it does look like Stallone from certain angles, but it's not the best sculpt. Let's start with the positives. The paint apps are actually solid. I thought that might be a little fake looking, but it's a good job on the skin texture and the facial hair. I also think the hair is done really well. It's a solid attempt to recreate his look from the movie. Where the sculpt suffers is definitely in the eyes. There's just something off about them, especially when you compare it to Stallone's actual face. And I also think his face might be a little too thinned out here. I just have to be honest, without the glasses, I don't think the likeness is there. You can kind of tell who it is, but not the best likeness overall for me. And I did want to compare with something on the packaging. The back of the package has the image of the prototype, and I do think the prototype looks much better. The face is rounder, the eyes too, and the proportion on the nose and kind of the cheeks. I think the likeness on the prototype was definitely there, and unfortunately during the production process the sculpt seems to have softened considerably, which is to be expected, but not as much as they did. So it's a shame because I think it's definitely a downgrade. But as is the story of my collecting life recently, with third party in particular, and even though this is licensed, it's going to fit in there. Once you put on the sunglasses, the likeness improves dramatically, which again just strengthens my feeling that the issue is primarily with the figure's eyes. That's where they're losing some of that likeness to Stallone. Now the rest of the figure's great. Tailoring on the clothes is really nice, although it is simple, right? A black undershirt, jeans, and leather boots. Figure is pretty stable. I don't feel like he was going to topple over, so that's nice. And the ab crunch gives you some nice lean options. What I don't like, they gave us single jointed elbows. With these weapons and with what you're trying to do pose-wise, it seriously limits posability, and it just annoys me. And with the jacket on, there's an added layer where you can't really get his arms to fall naturally on his side, so it just looks a little wacky. But at least that'll get resolved once you remove the jacket. So, simple figure overall with a lot of good things going for it. The accessories in particular are awesome. Just so much effort went into those, and I think the glasses salvaged the figure for me, because I'll be displaying with those on for sure. With the jacket off, I do feel like the figure has more of a visual impact. The body proportions look a little bit better, and you really get to showcase items like the SMG holster, the grenades, and the badge. I think he just looks so much better in that final look. Oh, and also with those matchsticks, you can add those in to just give you an extra kind of great look for the character. So there are a lot of options for display here, and I think you are getting two of the more critical looks from the movie. Short jacket from the opening and the armed up version from the film's final battle. But there are two things that I feel we should have gotten. I think we should have gotten his long jacket and a pizza box with a pair of scissors. If you've seen the movie, you know why I mentioned that. But look, in no way am I going to knock the figure for not coming with those things. That's just more of it would have been nice to have. So overall, I'm happy to have him in the collection. A huge part of that, though, I have to attribute to nostalgia. I watched this movie so many times, and I never thought I'd have the opportunity of owning a Cobra in 6 scale. So to get that chance and to actually have this in hand, it's awesome. But I do think the figure suffers from a very weak sculpt. Look, I'm always honest with you and try to give you my real impressions, even if you don't agree with them. But I just don't think the sculpt is there. And this isn't a cheap figure either. By comparison, I'm going to bring up 3-0. They've done 2 Rambo figures with a third on the way for $200 a piece. So about $80 less than this. And their sculpts have an uncanny likeness to Stallone. To me, there's just no contest. So that's something I think you should consider if you're thinking about picking this guy up. For the cost, you just have to be willing to accept that almost everything else is great, but the sculpt is an issue. And the scale is also a little off. Just seems a little bit bigger, and he seems more bulkier than he would be in real life, right? He's not Arnold. He was definitely built, but a little more lean. So just temper your expectations and going knowing that you're not getting a Hot Toys figure or even a 3-0 level sculpt here, but everything else is pretty outstanding. Again, you might disagree, but I think it's a fairly positive review. Figure overall looks great, and I love the pose with the machine gun, just really stands out, and the badge is just really incredible. I just wish that the sculpt had been better. So if you do buy, just be forewarned. For me, I go back to the simple statement, it's Cobra. It's Marion Cobretti. Who else was going to make him? And if Stallone Shop makes more versions of Sly's characters like John Spartan or Gabe Walker, I'm in. So let me know your thoughts on this one. And if you disagree with me on the sculpt, always interested in hearing that as well. And again, just thanks for spending some time watching. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing. And we'll touch base on the next video.